Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We're going into the final WCG Canada Online Qualifier. The winner of this gets a pile of money, not to mention bragging rights. Joining me to celebrate in the awesomeness of this best of three, and depending on the victor, if Desro wins, actually be a second best of three after that even. But joining me is Joj. Joj, how are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm excited to see these players play again. It was great the first time, and it's going to be great this time.
Fair enough. Indeed, you are correct. Obviously, on the screen, we do have everything going. Top left-hand corner on, on Belshir Vestige is Jig revisiting this.
Yeah, and in the bottom right-hand position is the orange Protoss player who's come from the losers bracket after a kind of a frustrating loss against Jig in the winners bracket. This is Desro.
Yeah, but he's been playing quite well against Bones. He did an unbelievable amount of damage. It was very impressive to see, to say the least, and everything looking quite good on his part. I think he lost a bit of focus, but Jig is really good, to say the least. Jig is unbelievably good at waiting till the absolute last possible moment to throw down his Roach Warrens, to be able to throw down his tech, and then starts creating units. His control is very good. His decision-making is equally good. Desro, at the same token, Grandmasters levels Protoss, ladies and gentlemen. He spent a long time in Korea practicing. He's played with lots of different teams. He has the experience. He has the pedigree. And absolutely not going to be an easy death. And chrono boosting out workers like a fiend. Looks like a forward pylon. I'm going to suspect we could see a Forge Fast expand out of Desro.
Yeah, that's what I'd bet. It seems to be what he's most comfortable with. Throughout the entire last series against Jig, he just did Forge Fast Expand. He's not one of those Protoss players that seems to vary his openings by, oh, well, this time I'll do a Gateway first, and this time I'll do a Forge Fast Expand, and then kind of play all the way in between. He seems to really like his Forge Fast Expand with Nexus first. And I can't blame him. It's a solid opening.
Yep, absolutely. And this probe is going to get a fair bit of information as well. And it is going to get a bit of harass here and trying to slow things down a little bit. But Jig actually able to get down that hatch very quickly.
Yeah, that's definitely what Jig wanted. It's a little bit frustrating when your Protoss opponent just kind of does that star thing where he just runs in a star shape while you're trying to plant the hatchery. It's pretty frustrating.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. Oh, sorry, go ahead, please. I apologize.
well, basically, Desro is just going to say, well, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go Nexus first anyway, and then a Forge, and I'm still being really greedy, and you can't hurt me. So he's still okay.
Yep, indeed. And, yep, that Overlord's just going to float right on by. And we're ahead, yep, indeed. Forge gone down, Pylon, Gateway. We should see a Cybernetics Core. Same building placement as last time. Very interesting to see this. Basically, and Desro threw down his Cybernetics Core in front of that lefternmost pylon. And Jig never really capitalized that in the last time they played together, I think. And didn't snipe it. It was like an easy target. You could just show up and just pick it off with a bunch of Roaches or something along those lines, but never did so. And so, kind of interesting to see. Obviously, this is a build that Desro has done a pile of times on the ladder. But that being said, Jig throwing down a very quick hatch.
Yeah. That's a pretty typical timing for if you want to go that 3-hatch gasless opening that was popularized in the mid to end of Wings of Liberty. But I do want to talk more about that Desro building placement. I don't agree with this because, like you said, it lets you get a lot of... potentially, there could be damage on that Cybernetics Core. It's a little bit exposed. It's not protected by the cannon. It's going to be hard to defend with sentries or with immortals because Roaches will be just able to sit outside of the range of your units and poke away at it. The last time this happened, our Zerg player Jig did not actually need to capitalize on the building placement because he won the game when he held off the immortal push. So it may come into play a little bit more this game if maybe Jig is the one that gets aggressive first. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, from what I've saw in the previous matches, Jig is generally a little bit more, I guess you could say, passive. He likes to macro heavily as fast as humanly possible, get a very strong economy, and then go. And you can see it, like you said, in I think the previous matchup, gets the inject and then starts transiting the queen all the way down to the third, which literally has just hatched. And by the time it gets there, it should have enough energy for its inject on that third. Drones are being transferred, though. Where are they headed? It looks like they're heading on down to the third. Indeed, they are going over that middle patch there.
Yeah. Third base just getting established for Jig. He's grabbing his double gas at the typical time, which is about 6 minutes. And really the next big thing that we're going to be watching for is the Evolution Chamber and Roach Warren timing. So far, he hasn't done anything crazy like Mutalisk first, in the last couple matches that we've watched him. He does want to play standard, but he does vary the time of his Roach Warren and Evolution Chamber. And Desro, as we've seen, is no stranger to early aggression. And so if those two buildings for Jig get delayed enough, some big pressure could hurt him. But Desro is actually taking a ballsy third base.
Yeah, that wasn't just sub 7 minutes. That was like sub 6 minutes and 30 seconds. That's a very fast third, but that's going to limit his ability to be able to provide an economy for some kind of early aggression. And it's going to be somewhat impacted. He does have a couple stalkers in that Mothership core. They're going to snipe off that Overlord, it looks like. Queen is going to shoot on back as well. Lots of Lings also showing up. But this is a good thing from Desro. He's been able to bait Jig into basically spending some larvae on Zerglings, and 6 more are going to hatch, but they're not going to be needed at all. They are going to try and chase down the Stalkers, but there's no point. These Stalkers can kite them quite some time without speed on these Zerglings.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really like that point. He forced out some Zerglings. He killed an Overlord. That was a really good little poke by Desro, and it's buying him time to get that third established, get the gateways up and running, and probably put a cannon behind one of those pylons just for extra safety. And Jig says, okay, I know what you're doing. I see that you've taken a really super fast third, so I know I can safely throw down my Roach Warren and my Evolution Chambers pretty stinking late. And he's thrown down double Evolution Chambers in order to really crank out those upgrades and catch up with his opponent.
Oh yeah, and catch up he will. He has a pile of workers, 65 to 55 in the favor of Jig as it sits right now. Army supply, of course, is going to be pretty even because nobody's really made much of anything. Desro at 14, Jig at 17. But both players very much in command of what they're doing, and you can see the creep spreads actually starting to expand quite quickly, I need to say. I like seeing this. I like the fact that there's a queen actually dedicated to creep spread. A lot of players don't do this, and you do see it in the top tier caliber players do have that extra queen, or even 2 or 3. I think Tia Low likes to have 2 or 3 up front in personal doing that kind of duty. So I like this. It's going to connect the bases very quickly. Jig is macroing like an absolute fiend. I'm going to take a look back. 66 workers now, but the army is now starting to climb.
Yeah, that kind of queen variation, depending on the player who you're watching, that's a really interesting facet of Zerg play, and it seems to be the most common against Protoss players who favor Stargate builds. But Desro is not one of those players. He favors, I guess because he practiced this for so long, he favors that kind of ground-centric, Wings of Liberty-esque, Robo-Blink 3-base, and that as a pretty solid base to build the rest of his game plan on. But there's a little bit of a poke coming forward by Jig.
Yeah, Pile of Roaches as well as some Lings are going to show on up. It's a force field, but it's not the best one in the world because everything is able to run around it. But that is an awful lot of Stalkers, and that is going to be enough to push this back.
Yeah, and Jig also playing a little bit Wings of Liberty-esque. He's taking a fourth base about 10 minutes, 9 minutes. He's getting an Infestation Pit along with his Roach Hydra. And so it's not exactly Wings of Liberty-esque because he's adding the Hydralisk instead of just Roach Infester, but this is still pretty ground-centric. There's not Mutalisks, which were buffed. There's not any kind of quick tap to Vipers, which seems to be really en vogue in pro players recently. Hyun is a big fan of it. Jaedong's a big fan of it. But Jig is sticking to what's tried and true. He knows what he wants to do. He knows what's standard. He's going to do that and use control to get an edge over his opponent.
Yeah, there's a Ling scouting around on the left-hand side of things just to make sure that there's nothing sneaky coming around. Overlord placement is really kind of key. I want to point this out as well. The Overlord placement of Jig is such that basically no Warp Prism is going to sneak on by, and I think Jig knows that Desro is really big on doing a lot of run-bys, doing drops, doing kind of pokey harassment play, try to pull his opponent out of position or basically just start taxing his multitasking. So Jig, very wisely on the left-hand side of the map, has basically got Overlords all set up, but it looks like these Stalkers are now walking on creep, and Jig knows what's up. He has a small force here. Good fungals going down on top of these Stalkers and trying to keep everything locked down so they don't go anywhere, but excellent force fields on the part of Desro.
Yeah, this is looking pretty bad for Jig, actually. The great fungals, but the problem is there's not enough army to deal with this. This is a pretty strong, probably a 10-gate, 9-gate Blink Stalker push with +2. This is really scary, and he needs something more than just Hydralisks. He needs to have Zerglings, he needs to have Roaches to be the beef, the meat of this army in order to defend. And there, yeah, Jig knows exactly what's up. 18 Roaches are in the production, and, oh man, but there's so many more Stalkers coming in to reinforce the Desro.
Yeah, it is a 9-gate build that actually Desro is hitting with. Off of 3 gates, off of 3 bases, that 9 gates can basically just crank out units non-stop the entire time. Lots and lots of roaches coming down. +2 is about to finish in about 30-40 seconds time. If Jig is able to hold off until he can get that upgrade advantage, certainly he'll be in good shape. 2-0 upgrades for Desro, but Desro with so many stalkers here. And actually sniping that Overlord being a huge problem here for Jig, because now he can't make any additional units at all, as he's now just supply blocked.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The supply block is a really big deal in this kind of situation. Desro is damn near maxed on just Blink Stalkers. That's insane. There's a little bit of a flank trying to come up from Jig, but it doesn't actually pan out for him. He wasn't able to get anything in position. And Desro is playing this really smart. He's dancing between the natural and third as well as the fourth. And that's really keeping Jig back on his toes. He doesn't know where to position his army. And Desro's probably going to snipe that fourth. That's huge.
Yep, and the army of Jig is actually quite smart. I like this on his part. Is he keeping everything back? He's just getting his max up. He's going to actually hide while we're waiting for that to happen. And that's very smart of him. He's actually just trying to make it contain, do as much as he can, kind of get the army up as big as he can get it. But I'm fearful that he's actually going to lose this third right now, despite the fact that he's not wanting to engage these stalkers. Which, right now, basically, Desro is just blink microing these stalkers all the way back, and they're not dying at all.
Yeah, this is looking really grim for Jig. This is a terrifying thing to come up against. 200 supply of Blink is just so cost effective. Having the Infestors are really nice, but maybe potentially having something to catch and surround the army, prevent it from leaving your range, like Zerglings, maybe quicker tech to Hive with better upgrades, something. This is just such a scary army from Desro, and Jig is gonna have to tap out. He doesn't have an answer.
No, he has nothing. He just has a handful of roaches and some infestors, which are completely out of energy. And the stalkers are just going to continue pushing on forward. They, still 2-0 upgrades. And in fact, actually, Desro's not producing a single unit right now. He's just basically pushing on forward. And yeah, a big GG by Jig, and Desro is indeed victorious. Game number 1 of the WCG Canada Online Qualifiers Finals. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We will be right back with game number 2. We'll be back just after this quick commercial break.
The legend begins with MSI Dragoon Army. A unique and legendary army comprised of an elite group of fighters. Now, pick up your ammo and weapons. MSI Gaming Motherboard, Gaming Graphics Card. MSI Gaming Notebook, Gaming All-in-One PC. Be a new breed of the Dragoon Army with MSI to conquer any battleground. Top player, top choice.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Game number 2. As promised, very quick commercial break. Joining me is Joj. We are actually loading the game right now, and this is actually being loaded up. And let's just jump right on here. Joj, would you be so kind as to introduce both of these players for me? Okay, I think there might be a technical difficulty here. I'll just continue on. Hopefully Joj jumps in here as quickly as he can. And up in the top right-hand corner, it is going to be on Cloud Kingdom. This is an older map that we don't often see. Is going to be Jig. He lost game number 1 here between Desro and Jig. Obviously, game number 1 in the finals. It's pretty important that Jig wins this. Now, that being said, Jig is not out of it. If he loses this game, he actually is a double elimination tournament, so he actually has another opportunity in the final as well. So that being said, down in the bottom left-hand side of things is Desro, and he's got a little bit of work ahead of him. I think Jig's going to put the fight to him, and Desro's going to have to bring it back. What are your thoughts, Joach?
Yeah, sorry about that initial thing. I forgot to unmute my mic. But yeah, definitely, I think Desro is probably feeling great about that first one. He says, okay, I kind of took back what's mine. I lost that first series against you, but that's not going to happen again. I've got you this time. I've got your number. But and Jig is probably a little bit disappointed with himself. He didn't like how that game went. He's going to adjust some timings, fix maybe his fourth timing, maybe adjust his tech, and say, okay, I've got you this time. I know this map. I beat you on this map last time, and I'm going to beat you on this map this time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's so much at stake here. I mean, a lot of people are like, well, what's the situation? Where do we sit with these two players? Well, Desro is guaranteed a seed no matter what no matter what. Even if he places second place, he's going to get his seed in the finals, the WCG Canada Finals. It's an offline tournament that will happen later on this year. Just stay tuned to WCG Canada's website for more details. But more specifically, he's got that seed, so he's happy. What he's looking for right now is the money and the win. And like you say, he wants that title. He wants that validation to be able to sell to teams and to sponsors and to be able to say, hey, look, I'm playing against top world caliber players and I'm winning. I'm doing very, very well. I'm performing at a very, very high level like we've been seeing him do. So there's no reason that Desro is going to have any issues whatsoever with this. That being said, Jig he already has a seat in this. Jig is in a previous tournament, he lost against Hendralisk, but Jig already has his seat confirmed for the WCG Canada Finals. He already got a spot. So Jig is in good place, but Jig wants bragging rights at this point. I think that's what he's looking for. He got a second place already in an online qualifier. I think he wants this one so he can have that under his belt, and I think he's going to fight hard to get it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Both of these players are Grandmaster level players, and making that jump from Grandmaster to semi-pro or even to pro, that's where you got to start winning the tournaments that you play in consistently. That's what both of these guys are after. Desro has been around in the scene for a long time. Jig has been working hard. He is a Grandmasters player on the North American server. Both of these guys are really looking for that win. But to talk a little bit about the builds of what's going on in this game, Desro has opted for that same build that he's so fond of, where he goes Forge Fast Expansion with the Nexus first, and Jig just doing the exact same thing he likes to do with pool first into three hatch with gasless opening for the first couple minutes of the game. Just a very standard opening overall.
Yep, and it's very similar to what we've been seeing already. Really, the decision that changes is, well, fairly soon, actually. Both gases have been taken here by Desro. Basically, he has to commit to a tech path, and once he does so, then we'll know precisely exactly where he's going. Jig is kind of... I'm going to say that he is... For the most part, he likes to opt for going for these Roach Hydra plays. It seems that he's quite fond of, at the very least, the Roaches, but certainly gets to 3 bases and then moves on from there. But I don't think that that's particularly indicative of his total overall game style. I think it's more of a case of he is transitioning towards that, but because he waits so long and he macros so hard on trying to get that really solid foundation of economy, it puts him in a situation where his Roach production is more of a responsive thing as opposed to a desired intent. For example, like in the last game, his Roach production started when he was about to get attacked. He saw that there was an offensive force, he starts making some Roaches, then he makes the bulk of his forces behind that. But what I'm driving at is I think that there's more beyond that. I think that if given the opportunity just for an extra minute or so, that he's able to explode a little bit more behind and be a little bit more aggressive and transition into other tech paths besides Roach Hydra and such like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he does favor ground-centric playstyles rather than somebody like Jaedong or somebody like some of the more flashier Zerg players where they go for Spire and they go for those crazy base race scenarios. That's not really what Jig seems to like. He likes solid. He likes dependable. He wants to know. I mean, he's practiced this build a lot. He knows the possible outcomes. He knows the correct responses in given situations. He's just playing what he's comfortable with. And I definitely agree that the Roach Hydra is this mid-game. It's a stepping stone to where he wants to be in order to take the win. And we just haven't really had an opportunity to see that, because either he's won the game when he held an all-in, or he's lost the game when he failed to hold an all-in. And once it goes, I'm really interested to see what happens beyond the mid-game, definitely.
Yeah, I'm very interested as well. Desro now kind of showing his hand now that he has 2 Phoenix in the sky, cleaning up a couple of Overlords. This is actually going to supply block Jig by quite a bit, and I'm just going to follow them here as they move on over towards the natural of Jig. There's an Overlord over there, free for the taking. In fact, there's 2 of them. They are starting to swarm around. Is there a Spore Crawler? It just went down, so it's just a Queen that's on defense, but it's not going to be enough. One of those Overlords does fall. Now that a reinforcement has shown up, the Queen itself is actually a target for some pain, and I think that he's going to wind up picking it up again. Yes, indeed, and that Queen is going to die.
Yeah, but so here's something that's interesting. So that Queen's going to die, and so Jig is forced to drone a little bit more than he wanted to, but this build is, like, his build and his timings for everything, this is like the Stefano Roach max. He had to drone a little bit more because his opponent went air and went for some Phoenix openers and had to place down Spore Crawlers. But look at the production tab. It's Roaches. This looks like a Roach Max, and honestly, this map was the Roach Max map in its heyday. So I would not be surprised to see some heavy aggression coming out against that third of Desro.
Yeah, in about 60 seconds time, everything is going to finish up. He's going to have, it'll be around the 10-minute, 30-second mark, 11-minute mark, thereabouts. He's going to have piles and piles of Roaches. His +1 missile attacks will finish. His Glial Reconstitution will finish. And even more and more Roaches. And yeah, and you can just see he's just basically holding down the Roach key and just cranking them out as quickly as the larvae will spawn. Without that Queen down in the... actually, there is a Queen down there. She's going to get the inject in just a second if something will get out of the way. So she can get at the... in fact, actually, it looks like Jig actually had to pull the Roaches out of position here so that the Queen can get her inject in. And actually, she still missed it. She self-canceled it because of the fact that there was so many larvae in the way. But you can see the steady stream of Roaches heading across the map. March, march, march.
Yeah, and so the Phoenixes from Desro are near the third base of Jig, and he's saying, okay, there's no fourth base. There's something going on here. So he's going to fly over to the third of Desro, and that's where he's going to see that there are Roaches kind of staging up for a big attack. There are Colossus out. There are some sentries out. There's a little bit of engagement going to be prepping for right now. And this, I've got to say, this favors Desro with there's no Mothership Core out right now, though. That's interesting. A Photon Overcharge would definitely help, but oh, some great Roach movement. Going to snipe some sentries. The cannon in the front is actually a little bit exposed, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that go down soon. This is really close.
Yep, and a nice snipe on that pylon. Actually going to supply block Desro just ever so slightly until they lose some units. And these Roaches actually going on the offensive, trying to snipe down the Immortal. I think they're able to do precisely that, and then they're going to start working away onto the Stalkers. Nope, they're going to focus forward onto the Colossus. It does fall and explodes in a flame of glory. And then meanwhile, at the same token, the Phoenix of Desro are trying to pick up these Roaches and do as much damage as humanly possible. However, they're just laying waste to everything. Workers are being pulled off the lines and shoved off to the side here. Nexus does fall. This is an unbelievable victory here for Jig so far.
Yeah, this build was perfectly executed. It was perfectly tailored for this map. I'm really impressed with Jig's really game preparation. This is exactly what we wanted to see. Desro says, you know what, whatever. This map, I don't even play this map. It's not even in the current ladder pool. We're going to go to the next game, and I'm going to beat you there.
Yep, indeed, and a very good victory here for Jig. That's actually going to force us into game number 3. Ladies and gentlemen, where it goes, anybody knows at this point. I'm scratching my head. I can't say who's going to be one way or the other. It's obvious that Desro, on a map that he prefers, I suppose it goes both ways, but on a map that he prefers, using a build that he enjoys, he is not having any issues taking wins. But that being said, Jig, excellent choice in the map. Like you said, something he's practiced very, very well, taking an old Wings of Liberty page and then making it work very, very well on Heart of the Swarm.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what Desro says. Okay, what's my map for when I'm going to execute my build against you? I would bet that it's a ladder map. Desro is a ladder practice machine. He ladders so many hours a day, and that's what I would bet. I would be interested to see if it's something like Red City. Red City is a pretty good Protoss map for all-ins, but actually it looks like it's going to be Akalon.
That's an interesting choice on his part. We're actually just going to go straight into the next game. And actually, no, I'm going to do a quick commercial break. And we'll be back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. Very, very fast commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, stick around. Game number 3 coming at you in just a minute. I know you got to wait. Hang on a second. We'll be right back. And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. My name is Nightshade. Joining me is Joj. We are getting ready for game number 3 in these finals. And we're getting ready to go. Everything is queued up. We're just literally just waiting on us to say go. And we are loading it right now. Joj, I'm pretty excited. How about you?
Yeah, like I was saying before the commercial break, I'm really looking forward to see how Desro wants to come back into this game. This is his map pick. He was able to lose that last game and still come into this best of 3 and say, okay, I've got one last map. If I lose this one, I get to pick my map and execute a build that maybe Jig has no idea what to do against. This is going to be interesting.
I agree with you. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, if Jig loses this game, he has not lost this tournament. Because of the fact it's a double elimination tournament, he would actually fall down to the loser's bracket and then play Desro again for another round, best 2 out of 3. So that being said, Jake can pretty much play anything he wants at this point. He could try to take the tournament right out of the get-go and try and steal it away from Desro, or alternatively, he could do whatever he wants. It's okay. There's literally no pressure on him for the most part to win this game specifically. But if he's able to do so, he's going to be in good shape. And up in the top left-hand corner on Akalon, ladies and gentlemen, it is Desro.
Yep, and in the bottom right-hand position, there's the pink Zerg player, Jig. And I'm really looking forward to see what he's going to be doing this game for sure. This map definitely favors Protoss if Protoss play for a little bit of a later game, because Protoss can take a quick third and a pretty easy fourth that are pretty tightly clustered, easy to defend with one army. And I'm interested to see how this game goes for sure.
Yeah, it's a very interesting map. It is a very quick map to transit across, so speed is of the essence. You can definitely take advantage of speedlings being able to reinforce very quickly. If the creep spread can get out there, Jake can definitely reinforce very, very quickly. Desro getting that fast probe on out there, though, that's really quick. Getting it on over. Like I said, this is the beauty of this map, is you're able to scout so quickly, check on your opponent, and he's not going to see anything out of the ordinary. Jig is just basically, it looks like he's probably going to go hatch first, and then throw down. I'm just taking a look here. He's getting up to 200 minerals. Does he go pool first or hatch first? That's the big question. Pool first is what it's going to be.
Yeah, I think Jig doesn't even practice hatch first. I'm going to say that Jig just pulls first in his ZVP. He says, there's not even really a point to taking the risk. I'm just going to pull first and beat you later on. And I like that. That's expressing a lot of confidence in his play, and really I feel like he can back that up.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the big indicator is whether or not he's going to do early aggression is with regards to those gas timings that he throws down. If he takes a gas earlier on, which I don't think he's going to do, because he's kind of shown his openers consistently in in ZVP is he likes to get those hatches down, and then wow, Desro is just absolutely denying this hatchery from going down.
Yeah, he does finally get down, but that's definitely frustrating. Oh no, Desro's lagging.
Yeah, just a little bit. This is an online tournament. I think he's just having maybe a network problem or something. He's just trying to figure it out. And we're just going to keep an eye on things. I'm sure it's just something that he can fix, yeah, and it looks like that's exactly what he's done.
Resumed.
There we go, and he does fix that up, so hopefully there's no more lag on his part. This is an online tournament, ladies and gentlemen. They are playing from their homes, internet cafe, wherever it is they're choosing. Probably their homes is my guess.
Yeah, yeah, most likely.
And I like this by Desro, throwing the probe out front and moving back and forth. And I'm not good at speaking French, but I'm just checking it. Hang on a second here. Well, you had to turn off Steam and shut it down. It didn't reboot correctly. That's what the problem is. I guess you had the Steam client going in the background, and that might have been running an update or something along those lines. So, but he's apologizing in French, if you guys are wondering. My translation's not the best. My French is not that good. George, I don't think you speak French at all, do you?
I don't. I actually live in. I'm not actually Canadian. I'm part of this, but I'm not Canadian. I live in Texas, so I speak a little bit of Spanish and some English.
That's always actually a good skill set. Spanish is very, very similar in a lot of ways to a lot of the Latin languages. Probe is going to see the third go down very, very quickly, but it is going to get chased on down here by these Zerglings. But I think it's going to be able to make its way all the way back, and actually it looks like a reinforcement here from an additional probe to try and keep this one probe alive as it's running for this photon cannon.
It just wanted to be next to his brother, you know? He missed him, and he was there to provide emotional support.
Taking care of his buddies. Hey, buddy, I got you, don't worry. But, oh my goodness, this is actually, it's not likely to knock down this forge, because there's just not enough lings there to do so. And this Zealot is going to make its way out, but that's actually fairly good. It actually eats up a chrono boost, and so Jig is going to probably be quite happy with that, because that's one less chrono boost being used on workers or upgrades or stuff like that. That being said, Cybernetics Core has finished coming in, and Zealot is trying to chase these lings down, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and it's still going into that very, very typical mid-game for both players, although here's a deviation we haven't seen very much. It happened in the last game, and I like that Desro says, you know, I'm going to do it again. I'm confident in this. This is solid. He's going for Stargate before transitioning into anything else. And I definitely like this. I'm a fan. What do you think, Brad?
I do like it. He's mixing it up, which is a big, big thing he needs to do. Jig has been showing that he's pretty much, I wouldn't say he's a one-trick pony, but at the same token, he is kind of committing to the same kind of build idea. You know, he's grabbing his gases now, he's expanding out, he's macroing like he normally does. There's nothing really changing too much, which I do like with Jig. You know, when you get a good build, you want to stick with it. But at the same token, Desro does show the ability. He likes to mix it up, and not a little bit, but he likes to do it a lot. And this actually can work out really, really well for him, because he'll be able to throw curveball constantly at Jig. Let's say, for example, Desro does take this game, and he's victorious in this particular map. He still has another 2 out of 3 to win in the, I guess you could say, in the losers bracket final, but the double elimination portion of it. What do you call it? There's actually a term for it. I can't recall, but the he's able to try and experiment a little bit, and this is a worthwhile experiment, and it's something that he's been able to show. He's got the micro. He has the skill set. Why not use it?
Yeah, and here, whoa, this is interesting. Oh, never mind. He just delayed it even more. Jig is really, really heavy on varying his Roachborn and Evolution Chambers. He waited until 7:30 to plant those down. That's pretty late versus what Desro is doing, right? So Desro is actually taking a fast third, but Jig barely verifies that. He doesn't know what buildings and what tech path Desro has taken. He just knows that there are buildings by the third. That's very interesting. But this could go into that old style that he was doing, which was Roach, Hydra, Infester. It's probably not going to be Roach Max. There's too much gas for it to really be a Roach Max. But there's only one evolution chamber, and he has done 2 in the past. So I'm not sure what he wants to do here.
Yeah, I do like the fact though that he's kind of, I don't know, it feels like he's got 6th Sense or something along those lines, because he's getting those Spore Callers down awfully early and nice and quickly to help defend against these Phoenix. I think he saw the Overlord got sniped over by Desro's base, and so then as a result of his immediate reaction was get a good number of Spore Callers down, so that these Phoenix can't be nearly as potent as they could be. This one Queen is going to get sniped, unfortunately, but that's okay for the most part. Additional worker damage is not going to occur, but Jig is in very, very good place as it sits right now. He's got 66 workers as opposed to Desro's 55. Like you say, he's consistently late with throwing down that Roach Worm, but I should also point out though that Desro is grabbing that Twilight Council. I don't think he needs it right this moment, because he is going for air, or not. I think he's stopped for air. He's just using that as a transition.
Ooh, Desro had a robotics facility and canceled it. but Jig didn't know that there was a robotics facility ever, and scouts it with the Overseer. That's very interesting. That had a second robotic facility, as there's still one in the main. That's interesting.
And he's going to throw down the robotics facility anyway, taking that, getting it back. That isn't... Wow.
I think that may be a bay. I think maybe he put down a second robotic facility on accident, put down a bay.
Yeah, I think that may be what it was. That or he's playing mind games with us. Which is entirely possible. Fourth base going down, just up on the right-hand side of things. It is going to get scouted by Desro. And that being said, a fairly good push here. We've seen this fail, though, unfortunately, in the past. Slow Lings along with slow Hydras. Muscular Augments is going to finish just about now. They are now moving at regular speed like they should. And Ling Speed is going to finish up in about 20 seconds time or so. So everything looking fairly good in that regard. Some drones getting caught out of position here as well. And everything is going to have to fall back to try and provide some level of defense for these drones.
Ooh, I really like this. There's a quick hive coming up for Jig. This is something that Hyun and I think Symbol even to some extent have been doing, where they get a quick hive, get 2-1 going while hive starts, and go into quick Vipers. I really like this, especially versus this fast third and really defensive Protoss play, as it will let you deal with the 13, 14, 15-minute pushes from your Protoss opponent with Vipers. And it's just really cost-effective. The problem that I see is that he's got to have an answer to those Phoenixes and make sure that his Vipers don't get sniped.
It looks like he's going to be doing some investor play. That might answer that question, I think, reasonably well. He is researching pathogen glands as it sits right now, so they'll be good with the infestors. And I think you're right. You know, infestor, roach, and then some Vipers thrown into the midst. I think that's a really good unit composition, and it will do really, really well. You could use the infestors to help lock down these Phoenix, and they're not much of a problem. And then on top of that, those fungal growths can also be used on any ground forces to lock them from being able to aid any combatants that are pulled out of position by the Viper. So that has the potential to be really, really potent. A lot of Lings in production right now, plus one Carapace as well in research and missile attacks level 2. I think you're right. This could be really, really potent, and Jig looking like he's kind of getting postured up for a bit of a poke soon.
Yeah, this is going to be weird. Yeah, there are the Vipers. Okay, cool. So here comes a little bit of a move up by Desert. He's moved out from his natural, and it looks like he wants to secure his fourth before moving on. So he's going to move out and take the fourth at the same time. That's excellent. That's exactly what you want to see as Desro. It comes down to a little bit of a race. If Desro pushes out into the creep and tries to just annihilate Jig, it could work. And before the Vipers get out. But actually, really quick, there is a Warp Prism in the main base of Jig. This could be devastating. An Infestor gets picked up. There's a lot of Zealots here with Phoenixes. A Viper goes down, and it takes the whole army moving back to deal with it, while Desra moves on to the fourth base of Jig. And this base is dead. There's just no two ways about it. This base is gone.
Yeah, there's a large force of Colossus and Stalkers just roasting away on absolutely everything. Big freaking laser beams just roasting pretty much all the workers have fled or died, their pick, and I think most of them died, to be perfectly frank. I mean, in fact, even the broodlings that spawn out of that building are just going to die just as quickly as the next. And in fact, they pretty much one-shotted that Spore Crawler down into oblivion. Even units coming out of those eggs are getting cancelled as well. Good choice by Jig, and they're not going to survive anyway, so what's the point of spawning them? And it looks like he's going to counter. He's going to push on up. Fungal growths going down onto the Stalkers. They're not able to reinforce the Colossus that are getting pulled out of position unbelievably well by these Vipers, and Desro in a lot of trouble here as Jig is just chasing down, dodging these force fields, trying to catch on up and takes down that other Colossus as well. And Jig looking really, really strong right now.
Yeah, and at the same time as that going on, there's been a drop in the main base from Desro. Jig has lost a couple of the defensive Hydras that he left there, and more Warpins are coming, and so Jig has to pull back and give Desro a little bit of time to breathe. So Jig is saying, okay, I got to take my fourth. I can't go kill you right now. I have to go deal with this drop. So he's taking another fourth, and Desro is establishing his fourth. And once that fourth gets up, it's going to be harder and harder to break Desro. And this game is going to continue on. +3 is on the way for missile attacks. +3 is on the way for Protoss ground weapons and Psionic Storm. As this game goes on and on, I really got to give the favor to Desro, and this game could go into a second best of 3.
Yep, and you can see that that Jig knows exactly that, and he's actually regrouping his army, and he's getting ready for a big time to go. And that's a pretty good choice. There's no Colossus in the mix. Yes, there's some Immortals, but that's not going to be a big problem against all of these Hydras. They'll be able to DPS those things down into the ground about as quickly as humanly possible. This is a very large force, certainly a lot. Like, he's just got to regroup, maybe get a bit of a concave, and then push on forward. Desro does not want to engage it. Yep, one Immortal down, and he just has to pull the other. Those Vipers so good. Yep, and as he continues to push on forward, fungal growth's going down. And yeah, Jig definitely wanting to shut down that fourth base like you were mentioning, and it looks like he's going to be able to do so.
Oh, this is huge. He pushed just before Storm was done. If Storm was done at the middle of, at the beginning of that engagement, this might have been a whole different game. But now look at the supplies. It's 193 to 91, favoring the Zerg player. All of the army for Desro gets shut down. GG, Desro goes out, and Jig takes first place in this qualifier.
Absolutely. He takes the money. He takes the bragging rights. Ladies and gentlemen, he takes the victory, and you heard it here first. But more importantly, he also he's already earned himself a seed into this. So we've actually had 3 players that are going to be advancing with a preferred seed into the WCG Canada Finals, and that is going to be in first place Jig. In second place is going to be Desro, and he earned a seed as well today. And then Bones, surprisingly, because of the fact that Jig already had a seed from a previous tournament, which he placed second place to Henderlisk, Bones is also going to be getting his seed as well. So 3 people getting their seed today, which is, well, 2 people getting their seed, but 1 already with it. But more importantly, Jig getting a very, very decisive victory. I was really, really enjoying that. It was such a good play by Jig, like such a smart idea to, okay, this is what I'll do. I'll use Infestors. I'll use Viper. And you called it. You called Vipers right from the get-go.
Yeah, I really like that build, man. I think that's an awesome build, and I can't wait to see that become more standard. It's kind of creeping to be that way, but basically it's a toss-up between that Roach Hydra Viper Infestor style, which is, by the way, incredibly hard to control. It's incredibly difficult. Eventually you add Queens onto that. You've got 3 different casters, plus your main army, plus managing your bases, plus making sure you don't die to that stinking War Prism drop. It's very impressive that Jig was able to control that so well and so decisively take those victories. He really just out-multitasked Desro. That was fantastic.
Yeah, he did a great job, and I was just finding out the cash money he actually earned is $65, but I think more importantly is the bragging rights. To take an online qualifier such as this against an opponent such as Desro is very, very hard to do. Jig should be quite proud with that. Desro, at the same token, is not that his performance wasn't bad. In fact, actually, he was able to also do drops and such like that in the background. It's just not as effective, and the timings of Jig were so good. Very, very good performance on that part. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure casting with you. Joj, how does the audience get a hold of you through Twitter?
Yeah, you can actually follow me. You know what? I have to totally go look up my Twitter name. I'm like the worst person ever. I totally have to. I'm actually JJLEDSC. You can follow me there. I tweet about inane things. I'm great to follow. Do it. And Brad, where can they find you?
You can find me at NightShadeSC2, NITESHADESE2. And as in StarCraft 2, go figure. It's not too much of a sharp. You can also check me out, nightshade.tv. Links absolutely everywhere there. We are going to finish this off with a bit of promo stuff as well. Check it out, actually. There's a really good documentary promo. I would ask you guys to stick around and watch. I've run it a couple of times during this tournament, but it is pretty noteworthy, and I do ask that you guys take a quick look at it as well. It is pretty important, and I do ask just, hey, stick around for 3 minutes, finish it off. Check all this stuff out, and then we'll be good to go. Guys, also check out WCG Canada on the interwebs and the World Wide Webs. It is, I'm just going to double check here, it is WCGCanada.net. Check them for further announcements with regards to their endeavors to get this final up and running. It's not been announced yet. They're still in the planning phases of just getting the facilities booked and the dates scheduled. But stay tuned with their website. They are quite good on getting their news up and running. And once it is up as well, they'll let you know. Also, I would like to thank our sponsors. More specifically, I would like to thank MSI for being a huge proponent of making these tournaments happen, as well as supporting WCG Canada and WCG as we move forward with literally the world's best cyber gaming on the planet, and it is without a doubt contributed to the fact that MSI is supporting us. So thank you very much as well. My name is Nightshade.
And I'm Joj. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you sometime.
Hopefully soon. Take care. Bye.